Hello.
Hello and welcome, everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Café series on construction by choice. Looks like we have people just logging on and joining. So we're going to honor our time commitment here and get started, but people will join as we get going. My name is Laurel James, and I'm the chair of HAVAN Women's Council. And I'm here with our vice chair, Meredith Ewan. Hey, Meredith.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Laurel. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. I am looking forward to today's Café.
Oh, me too. I cannot wait until we can do this in person.
It's so true. It's so true. And I hope we can do it soon. I mean, the Zoom platform is wonderful because it allows us to have a broader outreach, but we're looking at dates for the new year. And I think we're trying to aim for 4 cafes in 2022, where 2 are in person and 2 are virtual.
I cannot wait for that. I think, the Café series, doing it virtually has been such a great way for all of us to connect during the pandemic, but nothing replaces doing it in person. But I really look forward to doing these Café series, and I'm so excited for the event tonight.
Me too. Well, for those that are just joining us, hopefully by now this is your second or your third or maybe even your 5th cafe, and hopefully you're already familiar with HAVAN Women's Council. We love seeing new faces though, and so far for those that are joining us, I want to issue a very warm welcome.
And everybody.
Yeah.
And if you're new or if you're returning, please feel free to introduce yourselves into the chat. We also have this ongoing directory, and it's like a directory of contact information. So please add your information or update it so that we can stay connected to each other during the event and after the event, and when we can do it in person. And I also think that we're going to try and get a poll being sent out to just get a better idea of who's joining us today. So this poll is: what sector of home building do you work in? Single home builder, renovator, multifamily home builder, designer, trade, supplier, sales, financial services, or other. So just click on whichever one best applies to you, and we'll see what the results are.
It's always good to get an idea of who's in our audience, because I find too with different cafe from one topic to another, the audience changes a little bit, and it's great to get a sense of who's coming out and who's taking part. And of course, we want to hear more voices and see more faces.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's so cool. So it just popped up. So we've got 52% of people. So the majority of people are single family home builders, renovators. Other is 22%. I would like to know what more of that other is. So maybe feel free, as you're introducing yourself in the chat, let us know what sector did we miss when we threw these categories up, and let us know where you're coming from and what sector you're joining from.
Definitely. It's awesome that there's so many single home family and renovators joining us today.
That's right.
We're not going to have any shortage of things to talk about with everyone then.
For sure. And maybe I'll just, for those of you that are joining us, maybe for the first time, I'll tell you a little bit about Women's Council. And we've changed our format a little bit for those of you that may already know. We have our general meetings separately. So we're not going to do a full general meeting right now, but here at Women's Council, our mandate is to encourage, empower, and engage women across all sectors of the residential construction industry. And we do this with initiatives across a variety of subcommittees. And the absolute best way to get more information is to come out to one of our general meetings. So we'd love for you guys to join us.
Yeah, so our general meetings are the first Wednesday of every second month. So I think our next meeting is going to come up on the 1st of September, and we invite everybody to come and join. It's a great way to learn more about all of the different events and initiatives and positions that we have going on. So feel free to send us an email, but I think we're also going to have HAVAN send out an email link for the general meeting as well.
Yeah, that's great. And we are volunteer run, so it's important to sort of think of that. All of us are volunteering our time, and we're growing all the time. We're currently looking for a few positions. We're looking to fill the role of secretary on the executive council, as well as membership engagement coordinator and industry tours administrator. So if you're interested in the, oh yeah.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like we're going to talk about all of those at our general meeting, and we'll also have the rest of our executive team there too, so they can answer any questions. But if you are interested, just please go ahead and put your information into the chat or send me or Laurel an email, and we'd be happy to tell you more about the roles.
That sounds great. Thanks, Meredith. Yeah. Well, for those of you that maybe have been wondering, because we've been doing many cafes and talking about career fair and all that stuff, anyone wondering about our industry tours, we do hope to bring that back soon, where we provide a behind the scenes tour of our industry where we highlight women along the way. And we're really eager to share that we're excited about that happening and hopefully doing that in person. It's one event that really is kind of tough to do digitally. I know Christabel's got some updates. She just recently was texting about that, and she's already gearing up some updates for our general meeting. So please come out to that and find out more ways that you can get involved or volunteer or take part or just find out what's new. And on the home building career expo front, it started off as a job fair, and then it became a career fair, and now it's a home building career expo. You guys, this thing is growing and growing because there's a real movement behind it. And it's facilitating our outreach to bring more women into the industry at the hiring stage, which I think is so critical for what we're doing here at Women's Council, but also our industry at large. So it's really intended to be, it's open to the entire industry. We've got outreach happening to schools and, cross disciplines across the entire home building industry. We want to let women know that this industry wants them and needs them, and that we're here to support and empower them along the way. And this is really what this cafe is all about, doing that same thing. So today we're talking about women choosing construction and how we can retain them once they're here.
Absolutely. And it's such an exciting topic to be talking about today. And that's what the cafe series is all about, is just being able to relax and sit back and enjoy this moderated discussion on a myriad of different topics, and then being able to continue that conversation and connect with women and men and everybody in breakout rooms that are smaller. And our format today is Zoom, but moving forward, we're going to continue with the Socio platform, and it's a great way to connect, but it just has a different broadcast. So you won't necessarily see everybody else on the screen, but it's still wonderful. And I think that, it'll be great.
Sounds great. Yeah, we're so thankful to have this time and space with all of you, and hope you find and meet other women in the industry, and other men, and anybody else that's interested in finding better ways to lift up this industry. So please share your comments and your questions and stories along the way. I'm looking forward to it.
Should we do another poll?
I think we should do a poll. Yes, I think we do.
Okay. All right. Let's do a poll about why we chose construction. So, Laurel, how did you come about to construction?
Well, that's a really great question. Out of these, I'd have to say an early passion for building. I actually got hooked really early. I won a contest in grade 8. And
that's so young. That's amazing.
I was hooked on this little Crayola perspective drawing thing, and drew this little foyer. It sounds so weird and bizarre, but it was these little planters and foyer design. And I won the contest, and then I literally got to step into the drawing because I saw it built, right? Like when it got built. And I was hooked. That was it. So I would say early passion. That was it for me. I was hooked. I couldn't get enough. I'm checking that off right now.
Amazing. That's awesome.
How about you, Meredith? Why did you choose construction? How did you come to it?
Well, it's the complete opposite of you, actually. Like, I did not grow up with a background in construction, and I had never really considered a career in the industry. And so for me, I came into construction more as a necessity, but I grew to love the challenges that come with being in construction. You know, I run Merino General Contracting, which is a custom new home and renovation company in Vancouver. But I also manage projects, and I oversee the budgets for all of our existing projects, and I lead the operations for the company. And, you know, some of my favorite parts about construction is the grit of the people and the work that we do. You know, every day is an exercise in problem solving. And, you know, construction is so unique in the way that, you know, a lot of the things that you have to do, you can't learn by reading a textbook or going to class. You have to learn by doing. And so getting to work with people that wake up every day and go to a job that's, you know, mentally and physically exhausting, but come up with these solutions to problems. And, you know, it's amazing to get to see, and, you know, it's instantly gratifying. So, you know, I always say that construction is so challenging, but I couldn't imagine doing anything different. And I think that that's part of the reason why we're all so passionate about getting more women into the industry, because there's so many opportunities, and the challenges are so amazing, because it goes to show you that there's always solutions to different problems, and, you know, 6 ways to get something done right. So yeah, that's one of the many reasons why I love it.
Well said.
My choice. Yeah.
Well said. I think a lot of what you just said is why I stay in construction. I love it. I love the grit and the detail and the problem solving, and the fact that no 2 days are different. So which of these did you check off, by the way? Did you check off tried it and loved it, or did you?
No, actually, I checked off family business, because
you did.
Yeah, well, because Steve and I run Merino General Contracting, and it's a family business, and we run it now out of a necessity. But yeah, I did try it and love it, but I can't say I had an early passion for building. But I'm not sure that a lot of women have. You know, I'm not sure that it's something that we normally are exposed to, and that's part of what we're trying to change.
And it's interesting, because we've got tied for first place, 35% tried it and loved it in family business. You hear, you do hear a lot about like family business, and myself, that's a family business for us as well. Angelito and I just happened to have our own careers, and we brought them together. But you know, I like seeing these other ones percentages coming up, and I'd like to see that trend coming up. And nobody picked bragging rights.
I like that nobody picked bragging rights. That's what I was gonna say. There's got to be some bragging rights out there. You build a beautiful home or a beautiful tower, you're driving around and you're pointing it out to people. I know it.
Maybe we're too modest out there, but oh, that's great. It's really good. I'd like to do this again at some point, like when we revisit this topic, do it again and see if some of those numbers change over time.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know, I think we're just about ready to go. But first, I think what we want to do is thank our sponsors. We've got a big thank you to our 2 sponsors. And here I am saying thank you to myself. Novell Design Build is sponsoring this event along with Greenleaf Electrical Group. And we're happy to have Candace Bassey behind the scenes with us today. And Greenleaf Electrical Group is a family-owned, full-service electrical contractor. She's here to tell us a little bit about Greenleaf.
Great. Thanks, Laurel. Hi, everyone. I'm Candace. I am the co-founder and estimator at Greenleaf Electrical Group. We're a family-owned electrical contracting company, and we specialize in luxury custom homes and renovations. And kind of to add to Meredith and Laurel's comments, like one of the reasons I joined entered into the construction industry is actually I'm an accountant, but my husband's an electrician, and we did a lot of projects ourselves in our homes. And we started our company in 2018, and it's more for the love of the craft and family business. And I also love working with my clients and doing lighting plans and getting to offer a little bit more than just going in and doing the electrical. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. And I'm super excited about today's topic. And I think it's going to be a very positive, energetic conversation. Thanks, Laurel.
Thanks, Candace.
And Laurel, I have to give you and your team a big thank you. You guys and Greenleaf and Candace, you guys did so much work to get this event up and running, and putting together a Café series in the middle of summer when everything is crazy busy. Thank you guys so much. You did so much hard work. And London, she's behind the scenes, but I want to give her a big thank you too, because she's done a lot of the run of show documents. She's put a lot of effort into it. So super appreciative. But Laurel, I would love to have you tell us all about Novell.
Well, thanks, Meredith. And at Novell Design Build, we don't talk a lot about Novell and what we do here, but we are, for those of you that don't know, we have a full breadth of service for custom homes, laneway, and major renovations. We are design build. We sort of say we're truly design build. It's right in our name. And that's because Angelito and I, who are the two founders of the company, each came from our respective disciplines, design and build, and founded the company together. And we've got a lot of great new projects that we're excited about, including one I just wanted to mention, which is one of the first coach houses ever permitted in West Vancouver. So it's been a number of years in the making, but we've been sort of trailblazing out there, and we're about to hit ground. So that's one that we're really excited about, and really excited to be a part of Metro Vancouver's, ever increasing home building scene, but also promoting gentle densification and better building practices at every turn, we hope. So thank you so much.
That is so exciting, Laurel. So maybe a future industry tour at this very first ever coach house in West Vancouver. Just throwing it out there as an idea. Well, I think it's about time that we turn to our main event. So I wanted to introduce our moderator for this evening, Debbie Kemp. She is returning for a second time with us, and she is Debbie Kemp of Kemp Construction. And Kemp Construction is a family-owned and operated company focused on high-performance custom homes and major renovations. And as a small business owner, she wears a lot of hats. So from strategic planning, branding, company identity, as well as overseeing all of financial accounting. So I don't think she has any free time, it doesn't sound like, but we're so excited to have you back with us, Debbie. Thank you.
Thanks, Meredith. Thanks, Meredith. I appreciate that. Yeah, lots of hats on today, and I loved your introductions. I think it's really fun to hear all the stories. I'd love to hear the stories of everybody who's on the call today, but we're going to hear from our two main speakers today, who I'm delighted to have the pleasure to introduce. Lesa and Lacey, I have heard your name, Lesa, around my home for years. My husband is a big fan. If you want anything done, if you want to start a committee, or you ask Lesa to join your committee, you get Lesa on your association. She just is a real go-getter. She's business manager at her company that she operates with her husband, Lacey Construction. She's been in the industry for about 17, 18 years now. And I would love to tell everybody how old you are, because that just blew me away. And I just think you've been doing this like almost half your life, and it's crazy. It's crazy how much you've accomplished. So some of those accomplishments and the things that Lesa's done getting involved in the industry will come up as we go through our conversation today. So thanks, Lesa, for joining us today. It's really like we're just meeting for the first time this week, so it's really nice to have met you. And
Debbie.
also joining us from Centra Windows is Emily Parson. And Emily and I got a chance to meet each other last week, just briefly. Emily's VP Marketing with her company, and she's been in the industry for about 11 years and 7 years with the executive team at her company. She's got some pretty cool stories to tell about what they're doing intentionally to create a culture to retain good people. And I'm really cautious about even language. There's a concept that's going to come up, I hope, in the conversation that I really, really appreciated. So we'll talk about that. I like that. I'll leave a little mystery there about that concept. But working in the construction industry, she came from automotive, so it's not that she's a stranger to a male-dominant business. Yeah, thanks for joining us, Emily, and we'll layer in some more of your personal as we go through it. Just as Laurel and Meredith had a chance to tell us a little bit about themselves. How did let's start with you, Lesa. I think it might be obvious from the name of the company, but we're not going to make any assumptions about. So what brought you to the industry?
Yeah, it's interesting kind of taking a look back. I did just turn 40, so I can put it out there.
She can tell everybody. I couldn't say that, but she can.
I used to solder the copper pipes under our cabin at home so that our pipes wouldn't freeze. And I ended up working in home hardware, somehow managing the plumbing department, although that was my only skill level. So it came not necessarily naturally. I honestly am the first person in my family to not graduate without a degree, or to not graduate with a degree. So the rest of them have at least two. I met my husband when I was 21, and we've been together ever since. So it was a matter of moving into a basement townhouse apartment and realizing his GST returns were done with pencil and paper, and it kind of it grew from there. So it's been a real blessing, and it's the way we put food on our table. So it's important to us, and it's been a real passion for mine since then.
That is very apparent to me from talking to you, that the is absolutely there. And Emily, how about yourself?
Yeah, like you said, I started in automotive, but my trade is actually marketing and communications and business development. So when I finished my education from Simon Fraser, I was really looking to start with a business where I didn't have to spin anything. It was important to me that in regards to advertising, that I'm in the business of making promises. So I wanted to make sure that I had a team of people that could back up what we were saying through our marketing and communications, and we weren't playing defense in the PR world. And so when I came across Centra, that was exactly what I found. And we have an amazing culture here. So I've kind of stuck and fallen in love with construction. So I kind of think maybe I stumbled upon it by accident, but I'm really happy that I did.
And that's kind of the fun stuff that we want to dig into a little bit about, what keeps you here. So we'll get to some of those secrets in a minute too. But Lesa, you're part of you've really worked to entrench yourself in the industry. And I use the word entrench because you've worked your ass off to get acceptance in some of the boards and associations that you've been involved in. What, do you have somebody, a cheerleader?
My husband's harassing me because I made him grab me a glass for a beer. So you need to leave though. I do tend to force my way in. I think the where I've landed is that I'm just going to keep pushing until I make something happen. So I'm past president of our Fraser Valley local. I sit on a BC Housing Builder Qualifications Committee, Skills Canada, BC, some other developmental boards and stuff. And it did honestly start because our Fraser Valley board skews very white, male, Mennonite. And I think sometimes the reasons I end up on a board are optics, but I like to warn them that I'm loud and I'm going to have my voice heard. And once I'm there, I'm there. So you're stuck with me. Really, in this fall, I will be the first chair for BC Construction Safety Alliance, which is something I'm really proud of, and something I think is really important to having women in industry is making safety simple and working on that. So it's very important to me. But yeah, I do force my way in anywhere you'll let me. So I'm surprised I'm here, but now you're stuck with me too.
But isn't that really cool? Like there's something so real about you just being able to be who you are. You don't have to, you're not saying I'm going to tone it down and I'm going to adjust or I'm going to be something else. And I mean, you're just living proof of the fact that you're in there by choice, and this is how you're making your way. And I think, Emily, you've got there's a similar kind of thread, because you've talked about the importance and alignment of values. And now, you may not see there's a values alignment sometimes. What you're experiencing or have experienced, Lesa, is that there maybe isn't a values, but you're staying true to your values. So Emily, we talked about values as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think, well, within our organization, we had for a long time, the values lived, but we couldn't define them. So we did a lot of work to actually pull the entire organization, have like lists of what are your values? What do you think our corporate values are? Kind of bringing it all into the boardroom and working through them. And we defined them. And then we did we don't just put it on the wall. We talk about them. They're part of our daily discussion. Our core values for knowledge of discussion, family, we call them FIRST. So it stands for family, entrepreneurial spirit, respect, safety, and teamwork. And the core one being family. And we live by it, and it comes up in our discussions all the time. And we did a check-in because we actually changed them. The E originally stood for excellence, but we've had a hard time defining it, and it was kind of vague. And we like to be excellent, but really couldn't put our finger on what that meant.
What is excellence? Yeah.
Exactly. What does that really mean? And so we changed it to entrepreneurial spirit, because we are an employee-owned and operated company. So we have over 300 employee owners. We have got a lot of bosses, which can sometimes get complicated, but it's really great. And we all hold each other accountable and have a lot of fun. So yeah, we really think those values, that piece is really important.
And Lesa, you and I had this similar conversation about the importance of family and how there's a culture within your organization as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. At the heart of our business, we are families working for other families and building their homes. And honestly, it's one of the largest investments somebody will make in their life. And it's really special to us, and we want to have all of our team members really keep that in their hearts and minds. And being able to renovate somebody's home, I mean, you're meeting their dogs, you're meeting their partners, you're potentially using their washroom. Like it's a pretty intimate thing, and we really pride ourselves, and that's where we found success with having women on our teams. They really thrive and succeed on our renovation crews, because they're much better than the rest of the guys on the crew at forming those relationships. So it's all about family for us. The dogs are in the office. I take the kids to school and then I go to work. So it's all about family for us, which is nice. And it leads to something I can't show it right now without making everyone motion sick, but half of our boardroom is full of food and water right now for donations to Siska and Lytton First Nation. And those are the things we can do because that's our value from our community. So.
Well, I think the other testimonial or measurement of your corporate culture was you said something about 5 of your employees are connected to past customers. Can you explain that?
Yeah, we our controller, we built her home. Our truck driver, we renovated his home. We have sons and daughters of former clients, and we actively use that avenue to try and find more people. do you have a son or a daughter of working age, and just like get them in there. So, but it's awesome. And I mean, the thing that kind of gives me shivers is like when we're at a team member's wedding or at a client's funeral or things like that. I mean, we've been in business for 22 years now, and those are really when it all kind of comes home to you, where it's like we're a part of more families than you think. So it's a true pleasure, it's a true honor, and we do try and convey that for sure through what we do every day.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I think we're kind of stepping our toes into the water of like, what do we need to do to encourage women to stay? But I think before we go there, one of the things, and I might just indulge ourselves right now to ask that poll about asking, do you know women who have left? One of the things we're talking about, we got these happy things. Well, at 6 o'clock when I leave this call, we've got all our guys here for a barbecue at our house tonight, and to celebrate a project that we kicked off this week. And so I so appreciate that family connection. I think I don't want to treat them like my mother and my kids, but we still have that same kind of I'm just going to answer the poll so I can get it off my screen here. Sorry. I wanted to get that off too. You know, we do have that real big commitment to the people who work for us as well. And we're a small company, so it's really manageable for us to be able to do that. But I'm curious to know, I think I do know. I mean, I worked in the oil and gas industry for about 20 years before I came to construction. And honest to God, I think one of the issues was a language. I had to have a translator to talk to the engineers that I worked with, because it was like, whoo, like I seriously had a translator. And a guy who sat with me says, well, I think what Deb's trying to say is, but I wasn't trying to say anything. I was actually saying something, but they weren't hearing the words that I was using. So it was, communication was about everything. Okay, so now I want to hear, now I'm curious about the poll. So we know some people who have left within the first year here. Do you want to tell us some of the stories about what do you know about why they left? Or because I think that, you know, as much as it's great to know what we think it is, the reasons to be able to help keep women and good people in the industry, barriers are, what are the barriers that are there? We read a lot about them, and I might have some biases about what I think they are. Emily, you can maybe introduce that concept, but yeah, I don't know that.
I'm surprised by the results at 67%, not knowing anyone who has left. That's great.
Maybe they haven't been here long enough.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say that. That's not true, but the answer no, because
nobody's leaving for a lifetime of frustration. So that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. I know it's yeah.
I can see Julie Sawatsky there was just saying talk to more women in the industry, and quite frankly, I think we're in a very privileged position to be in residential construction. I see a huge difference between residential construction versus ICI and union and non-union shops for the experience that women have, and I do feel privileged that we can offer the women on our team you know, a safe and welcoming work environment. But I do feel the role of women in residential construction is very different from the role that women may experience in ICI and those circumstances.
Hey, listen, isn't that true? Like, think about, for anybody who was on the call when we talked to, oh man, what was our conversation around there were women who'd worked their way up in the industry who were in very significant roles, and some of the things that those gals had to do starting off in their careers. And I think that would be another sort of way to split the statistic that we got, Laurel, is about the commercial versus the residential. I mean, if we've got a good thing going in residential, then come on over, right? We've got a story to tell. I think that the industry has a story to tell. If that's a really good point, Lesa.
Yeah. I think too, there was the document that was circulating about how supporting women in trades recently, and that gave a different perspective as well in regards to some of the challenges and what the aspirational goals are specifically for trades positions. So I think maybe more of the administration side versus trades is another kind of divide to look at in regards to how women are being treated and what we need to change.
And you know, I think it was Lesa, when you and I were having this conversation, and I think you're quite comfortable to say and quite certain that it's not about building that inclusive environment for women. It's about an inclusive and safe environment for everybody.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that was you, Lesa, that we had that conversation. I mean, I had the same conversation with Emily, but.
Yeah, I do feel a safe environment for women is a safe environment for all employees, and I do appreciate efforts. BC Construction Association and the Builders Code is a great starting point if you're looking at kind of introducing those concepts into your business. And it doesn't focus specifically on women; it focuses on safe job sites. And I know my husband at least once a week is like, "Well, I used to say this on a job site, and now I can't say it anymore." And I'm like, too bad. Like, you can't harass people the same way you used to, and that benefits men and women. It benefits you know, our visitors, it benefits our clients, and just a safe workplace mentally as well. I mean, mental health has been such a huge issue through COVID, and just that regular communication benefits everyone. It doesn't need to be specific. And I know for me, I don't want it to be pointed out like, oh, you're a woman, like what can I do? And the pink washroom, the pink hard hat, and it's great. And I think it benefits a lot of people. But for me, I just want to be treated like anyone else.
Yeah. Equality. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And Emily, like your company was taking some intentional steps on with respect to mental health in particular. You mentioned a mental health first aid course that you're talking about in your organization.
Yeah, I recently took a mental health first aid a couple of weeks ago as a kind of, there was 3 of us within the organization that took the course to see what it was all about and if it was something that we wanted to offer into a larger group. I know personally, I got a huge amount of value out of it. And I think it was really beneficial for me. And I'd like to see it adapted to the rest of the organization, especially for anybody who's in a management position or even has people that are coming to them regularly. Or could fall into that category of being a support person. It was really good.
You know, I it's interesting. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm taking the conversation in that direction, but these are soft skills. These are not. There's not a black and white hard thing that we're talking about that's going to make the difference to make it an environment that's an inclusive environment. And this is hard stuff. Some of this is really hard stuff. It's big behavior changes. If that's what the barriers are, but I don't know. Maybe. I guess again. What do you think about that?
I think that a really important thing is that we have the ability you have trust within your organization that you can kind of call people out in a respectful way when they make an error, because we all make an error, especially when it comes to our language and how we're speaking in an inclusive way. And I know I have had a couple of times where I've said things and I've been very grateful for my team to say, I don't think that that's what you meant, but this is how I interpreted that, and gave me like the ability to correct my language. And I think that that's just so beneficial for everybody to have that level of trust and to have those open conversations.
Yeah, well, you pointed out to me, sorry, Lisa, just one sec before I lose this thread, because it's going to be gone in like just 1 second. It's what you were, Emily, we were talking about the unconscious biases. Yeah. And when we had that conversation, I have been almost like toeing and stepping over, like trying to notice my own and pay attention to mine. And I think I've done a lot of that kind of work. I got work to do. I think we all do. But how do you get people even, like you're talking, Lisa, about changing behavior? Your husband, yeah, you can't talk like that anymore. Well, how do you tell him how to talk? How do you tell him? How do you teach people how to talk? What are you doing in your organizations that's making it safe?
I mean, I would agree with what Emily was saying. We do have a great kind of team camaraderie where we can have those tough conversations, and in a low barrier way where you don't need to feel embarrassed, and it's not necessarily an education. I believe the industry as a whole should be more intentional about not just women in construction, but diversity of voices in construction. Black, Indigenous, people of color, at least at the CHBA tables I sit around, they aren't very diverse, and just being intentional in welcoming and talking about that. We've had a few, when we do have circumstances that are culturally significant. So we renovated a longhouse, and we spend a lot of time on our toolbox talks talking about, being intentional about respecting another space. Or we worked for Buddhist nuns, and same thing. We spent a lot of time talking about that, and all those little things really help, But I love what Emily's saying. We call each other out, and it might not happen in the boardroom. It might happen at the golf after. It might happen after a couple of beers. We're all friends, and you're kind of you might tiptoe around certain people a little more, but we do need to be intentional about it and call it out when we see it happen. And quite frankly, my husband is one of the worst offenders, so I'm okay calling him out.
I worked in the oil and gas industry. We learned a phrase, and it was, when you say or do something, I feel what? It's a very, very simple line, right? And so the whole company, and that was in the 90s, so I'll tell you how old I am, but like everybody in the whole company learned how to say that to each other. And at first it felt really transactional and kind of, not true and not real. And actually a couple of guys just said, "Oh, about your goddamn feelings." Like we got into those kind of conversations, but over time, it took time. And you realize that we needed a framework, and we needed to have some formal education to start to change how you have language. I mean, communication is one thing. What are some of the other barriers, or what are some of the other things you're doing?
Yeah, I think, well, one of the things that we do annual strat planning, and every year there's always a people and culture pillar that comes up in our playbook. It's very long, so I won't go through all of it, but one of the ones is unconscious bias training that we're hoping to initiate over the next year for hiring managers and supervisors. And it's exactly what you were talking about, Debbie, is just like being aware. So it's like, you can't control when unconscious is unconscious. You don't know what's happening.
Yes.
So if you don't have supportive people like acknowledging it and telling you, or being very aware of what you're saying and your behavior, it's the only way to bring it up to the forefront so you can address it. And so, yeah, we all come with a whole history behind us, and we're all very unique and come with all of this bias. Every single one of us has it. So it's not a bad thing. It's how we survive. It's how we get along. But to be aware of those things in regards to being, supporting equality is really, really important.
Because as we're talking about, you don't want to have everybody in your organization so homogeneous that you're not getting diversity of thinking. The whole idea of having women, men, LGBT people from all different backgrounds, you just want to be able to value that diversity so that you get the best. You get the best ideas, you get the best solutions, you get the, yeah.
Innovation, like groupthink is a terrible thing. So if you can break that open and have a whole diverse thought and different people from different backgrounds in a room to solve problems and find solutions, it's been proven that the more diverse your company is, the better your profits are going to be. So there's a financial benefit to being inclusive and supporting gender equality.
Yeah. I don't know. I got to hear from anybody who's out there who's listening to this and saying, yeah, we know this all, or I want to do something. I mean, right, Candace, you're saying the same thing. Communication is really key. Yeah, and you work on it every day too. That's great. That's great. Being aware of how our apprentices. Sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
I think too, like in terms of being intentional with that communication, I agree with Candace. It's so key. And the times we've had the worst problems with our business have been when we've grown and we haven't been able to maintain our company culture. So at this point, we're being very intentional about it. Where division manager is following up with a new hire that day. And then Eric, as president, is calling that new person a week out and kind of forming that individual link. Like, you can talk to anyone. We're going to clean a toilet right alongside you. Like, you don't ask somebody to do something you're not willing to do. And again, all those things make it comfortable for anyone. And I think too, seeing where that person has an outlet. So whether it's a mentor or somebody else that they can talk to if they have undergone something that they feel is difficult or unsafe. And at certain times in our business, it's been clients who have been unsafe or abusive. So you do need to kind of form those outlets and make sure that person has somebody they feel comfortable talking to.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Is that an intentional?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Debbie.
I was just going to ask, is that intentional structure, or is that you can talk to anybody? How do you?
It's intentional structure. Eric's a good listener, more so than I am, and he reaches out to 1 to 2 employees every single week, and they just have a conversation. And really, his being president, we grew from $100,000 a year up to next year should be around 15 million. And we've had to build it in, or our company, when we haven't, just gets rocky. And the information we get back from our employees, similar to what Emily's saying, drives innovation, drives us to be better at what we provide for our clients.
I would add to that on something that you can do, especially for a larger organization, like run your statistics, know your baseline, know how many women are in each department and in what positions, and then maybe ask the hard questions of why. One thing that we really encourage promotions from within. So we have like our ladders of opportunity, that's what we call them in regards to moving people around. But one thing we notice is that a good percentage of our sales team comes from our install team. And so we have very low numbers on our install team for women. And so that's a ladder that women aren't climbing to get into a sales position. So being really, really like aware of what positions lead to what positions, and then having really good dialogue with your people to make sure that there's opportunity to grow, I think is a good one. Run your stats.
I want to talk to you guys forever, but I can't. And so, but you know what, Laurel and Meredith, well, we've got this unconscious bias thing on the table. I was saying to Emily, I would love for us to be able to do some kind of education session through the Women's Council to talk about unconscious bias. And I think that, you know, I just think that is super powerful. Maybe it's because it's new language, but for me, I've been tripping this week, and I really appreciate it because you know, it's just, yeah. Where am I unconscious? Somebody tell I probably did it today somewhere. But anyway, I just want everybody else to maybe give an opportunity to join into the conversation at this point in time. Questions that you have for Lesa, and, you know, thanks. I really can't thank you both enough. I want to have drinks with you both. Even if you don't drink, I'm going to drink with you. And yeah, oh, you got one. Good for you. I have water. Yeah, just to say thanks to both of you. It's absolutely delightful to have the opportunity to talk to you and just see what kind of questions we have from people who are here. What do you want to know? What haven't we talked about? What did we talk too much about? Yeah, let's see what we have from out there. Don't be quiet on us, please. That's
I think while we're waiting for questions to come in, another great thing is I love the quote, if you can see it, you can be it. So really highlight the women that are impacting your business and make them really visible and make sure that they have a voice, I think is a great addition.
Oh, somebody wants to hear a fun story. Well, we all have different definitions of fun, Meredith. I don't know what kind of fun you're looking for, but Lesa or Emily, can you tell a fun story about how you maybe dealt with an adverse situation and turned it around? You know, something, or how you know, I don't know.
Yeah. I would say one thing that I really used to my advantage was being pregnant and like looking like I might break into tears at any moment. Like I'd show up at the permit desk pregnant, carrying a car seat with a puppy, and they got me out of there so quickly. Like it was ridiculous. So I think I got very excellent care going in pregnant, bringing like toted him around everywhere. I think my son was in the car 8 hours a day. So that was a benefit. And I think then you find some champions, and that's how we grew from there. Like building inspectors who were willing to tell me everything just because I looked like I don't know anything, which quite frankly, I didn't at that point. So you can really play that to your benefit. There's lots of times where I'm like, I don't know. And then you just learn so much. So I don't have that ego thing walking in where some men do.
I don't know. I'm 66. Carrying around a baby on my hip might be a grandchild now. Right? I can borrow my son's kids. I need a little empathy. I need the building permit.
It works.
Pregnancy story too when it comes to I don't know how funny this is, but I was told when I was very pregnant at a networking event, we were talking about, one woman said to me that she would not, if she had a woman and a man that were both applying for the same job and similar age, she would hire the man because then they would be less risk to go on mat leave. And I was at the time 7 months pregnant with my twins, so very obviously showing. So my response to her was just like, well, if you'd hired my husband, you would be very surprised because he's taking half of our parental leave. Both for our parental leaves, my husband took 6 months and I took 6 months. So we split it down the middle. So hoping that will change some of those thought processes and an unconscious, actually that wasn't unconscious bias, that was just bias. But yeah, hopefully we can overcome some of those things with making some of those changes.
I see there's a question from Christabel. It said, question for both Lesa and Emily. When you try to find mentors for new employees, do you consider gender for the match at all?
Oh, that's a great question.
Lisa, yours.
No, I don't. I just think personalities, we spend so much time together socially. We golf together, we do Secret Santa. We do a lot of fun stuff together. We were just having drinks upstairs before this. So you just kind of see what naturally works. I think, you can't force it too much, and it can be different people at different points in their career as well. We have a lot of employees who've been with us, 5 to 10 years plus. So it's different people at different points who connect, just like dating.
Yeah.
Is that a structured mentoring program though, with you, or is it ad hoc, or what does it look like? Yeah.
It's pretty ad hoc at this point. So we are looking to add some more structure around it again, just because I think we're at around 47 employees. So we do, it gets a little scary when you don't know everyone's name. And now when I drive in with the dogs and I don't know who that person is in my driveway and stuff. We are looking to do it a bit more intentionally and closer to what Emily's talking about, the ladders to success, really showing them that there's a future in this. Again, another benefit of being in residential construction is our renovators do everything. They're going to leave here knowing everything in a home, top to bottom. That's really a nice draw, even for people who want to build their own homes or have their own company down the road. When I talk to women in high school, that's my selling feature. I say, this is the quickest way to own your own business, is to go into the trades or start your own construction. Well, maybe not a construction company, but to be in the trades, you can have your own business within a few years.
How about Emily? How'd you answer that?
We don't have necessarily a structured mentorship program. It's more of like I guess, kind of casual relationship. And we don't take gender into consideration. I think that actually men, because there's more of them in the industry, they need to step up for mentorship and mentoring women and breaking down some of those barriers. So I think it's important that both men and women are mentoring, but I like to think that we have an open door policy. So I've had many women from different departments within my organization just come to talk to me if they're dealing with something that maybe is more specific to a gender situation. And we have women throughout the organization that have those partnerships and get to share those stories and help each other. So I don't know, that's not really mentorship, it's more sport, but still relationship building and knowing that those doors are open.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think back to when I was thinking about what, having women's council, women's network, and it was about having other women business owners to talk, women who are involved in the business to talk to. And I just love being here with you, with all of you, to hear all of your stories. It's pretty encouraging, supportive. There's a whole bunch of different words. Any tips on? Oh, Kristen, are you reading any of Brene Brown stuff? Do you have any tips on being vulnerable while still maintaining professionalism within your roles? I'm sorry, I switched right to that one because I see there's another couple of questions from London and Sydney, but that Brene Brown captures my heart and my attention. I just love her research. And I told Laurel, I had the privilege to meet her and drive her from the airport a few years ago. And she's just amazing.
I'm like fangirling right now.
I know. Amazing. So question, any tips on being vulnerable and still being professional, as a business manager, as a member of a board member, as an executive?
Yeah, I feel like for me, early on in my career, I felt like I definitely I put on my suit, I come to work and I have my work Emily, and then I go home and I'm like a different person. I felt like there had to be a persona. And the more that I read and the more that I researched leadership, I was like, I got to tear down this wall. And oh my gosh, it's such a relief. I'm so glad that I did, because I feel like it was a huge change for everybody that I work with knows who I am. And I share my struggles and they share their struggles with me. And it's a relationship and it's a partnership. And I don't think that you can have those relationships if you're not willing to expose yourself a little and be vulnerable. Like, you got to be real. Or people see that, like, they'll know that you're faking it.
Yeah. Well, so if you haven't watched that TED Talk, Brene Brown on vulnerability, unbelievable. Laurel, vulnerability without boundaries is not vulnerability.
Oh, Laurel.
Yeah, that's an important one, because I just know for us, like we've had, you think you're really close to a staff member, and then maybe they have information and they talk to other people and whatever. It's something that I struggle with, because you all of a sudden as an owner, you can be a friend with somebody, but really at the end of the day, they're there for themselves, which is completely fine. So I've definitely had missteps in my career where I've trusted people too much. So I would say I've gone to the opposite end of the spectrum where I would be less open, more guarded, things like that. And I would say that's the same for my husband as well. It's not a woman thing, but I admire, I agree, Emily, you do need to show up and be real and whatever. And I've just been burned a few times. So, but it happens. I think it happens to all of us as business owners, frankly.
Yeah, and well, and I would also say in my experience, it's not just that, showing up with men, it's being able to show up with other women, because sometimes women in business, we can be a little hard on each other sometimes. So I know that, listen, I know we've got just a few minutes more, but Sydney had a question about stereotyping, sexism, and how do you maintain your professionalism through that? Do you have an example? I mean, vulnerability is part of that, but could be part of it. But do you have an example of how you kind of powered through something?
I would say I typically just call people out now, frankly. Like even at a CHBA table, somebody mentioned that we should settle a disagreement between myself and our EO by mud wrestling, and I don't let things slide anymore, and I call it out right then, because I find if I don't, then I just go home and stew about it, and it keeps me up and it eats away at me. And by the time I actually approach that person, they've forgotten they've said it. And quite frankly, they would have said that to somebody else. I mean, the mud wrestling was definitely because I'm a woman. But I like to say if somebody's an asshole, they're probably an asshole to men and women. It's not just me. It's not my gender. So they're just not worth my time at that point. So, but yeah, you experience it. But I think the people who are saying the stereotypical things or making those judgment calls are being just as awful to other people. It's not just women.
I had some really good advice on that one. Young in my career, somebody said, if it's analogy is just think about it for a minute. Is that just sand in your underwear? Like you could shake it out? Or is that something that you really deal with? And I ended up with a lot of sand in my underwear. I could just shake it out, but it wasn't, you got to like pick your battles, right? If, if that person's an asshole, is it really worth it? Is it going to make a difference? But you also state what's important to you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I also call it out around the table.
Out there. So yeah, very cool. Emily, how about yourself?
Yeah, I completely agree with Lesa in regards to being strong and calling it out when you see it. I have been caught off guard when things, somebody says something and it's so off base that I'm like, I feel like I get a stutter and I'm just like, I'm so shocked right now that actually was said. And I always come up with the best thing to say, 2 days later. But I think it is important that we call it out. We actually, the Centra team for International Women's Day, we did a parody skit on a lot of the stereotype things that women hear a lot. And I think there might have been like 10 different things that I don't remember the exact number, but I'd personally heard myself 9 of them. But we switched it around. So it was kind of like a joke because it was men saying it, not about women. So it was kind of a funny skit of presenting that this is actually still a problem, but in a hopefully humorous way. I think everybody got that we were joking, but still saying like, yeah, don't say this stuff.
No.
This isn't okay. Oh, thank you, Laurel.
Let's see, I don't know if I missed another question, as I think there was another question that came up further.
I think there was one on how I get in front of girls in high school. That sounds bad the way I just framed it. Sorry. So if you want to do that, the ways that I've found the best benefit is getting out with Skills Canada BC at their provincial competition. We also take the grade 6 students from our local schools to that competition. So we're out in front of younger kids. I think it needs to start much, much younger, frankly. And then now I'm at the point where I send my tradeswomen back into the schools and I have them on offer to any of the schools. So we volunteer with Skills Ready, we volunteer with Skills BC, we volunteer with any of those organizations, UFE, anything. And I just send my tradeswomen out and pay them for it.
Yeah, that super important. super.
I love that so much, Lesa, because on the poll we did earlier, it was tried it and loved it was 35%. So getting more women trying it, like that's a win.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, because I think you met Emily when we were talking. You said there was that when you pulled the women in your company and you asked them about, thinking about coming into the industry, and somebody said, "Oh, I didn't really think it was going to be a fit for me. I didn't think it would be like right for me." So, and then
yeah, and like a hesitation to apply, like liked our corporate culture and how it was communicated, but was uncertain if they would fit in, is kind of the quote. And so I think like one of the key things in regards to culture is a feeling of belonging. So if you feel like you're not going to fit in, like that could be a hesitation. So we just want to get over that boundary and like get more women into the industry and try it, because it's great. 35% said they tried it and loved it. So
is also, that belonging, sorry, but I'm going to say it again, Brene Brown, you got to read that. She's got that whole book that she's written on that. She's just writing a new book right now too. One more thing, I think we're all right at 5:30, and I know I'm supposed to do something at 5:30. I'm supposed to indicate that that's the end of the Q&A right now. And so we're going to move on to the next, the start of the post panel social. And so I'm going to turn it back over.
great
Thank you,
everyone.
guys. That was really fun.
Thank you.